If you're collecting Social Security, SSDI, or SSI right now, what I'm about to share could change your financial situation starting next month. And I'm not talking about the standard cost of living adjustment you hear about every year. Something fundamentally different just happened inside the Social Security Administration. A policy shift that advocates have been fighting for since 2015 has finally crossed the finish line, and the result is a recalculation that impacts every single benefit payment going forward. I've spent the last 48 hours digging through official releases, talking to policy experts, and breaking down the actual mechanics of this change because there's a lot of misinformation circulating right now. Some people are calling this a bonus, others are calling it an adjustment, but neither of those terms captures what's actually happening. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what changed, how much your specific benefit could increase, when you'll see it hit your account, and the 3 critical things you need to watch out for as this rolls out nationwide. Let's get into it. Here's what you need to understand about how Social Security increases have worked up until now. Every October, the Social Security Administration looks at inflation data from the third quarter and calculates something called COLA, the cost of living adjustment. That percentage gets applied to everyone's benefit the following January. But here's the problem that's been brewing for years. The inflation index the government uses is called CPIW, which stands for Consumer Price Index for Urban Wage Earners. Notice the word wage earners. That index tracks spending patterns for working Americans, not retirees. Think about how different your expenses are if you're 70 versus 40. Retirees spend significantly more on healthcare, prescription drugs, and utilities. They spend less on commuting, work clothes, and childcare. But the formula treats everyone the same. For over a decade, organizations like AARP and the National Committee to Preserve Social Security have pushed Congress to adopt a different index called CPIE, which focuses specifically on elderly spending patterns. And for over a decade, that proposal went nowhere because of concerns about cost and trust fund sustainability. But something shifted this year. After months of closed-door meetings between Senate Finance Committee members and Social Security Administration leadership, an agreement was reached to implement a modified calculation method that gives significantly more weight to the expenses that hit retirees hardest. This isn't replacing COLA. This is a baseline recalibration that happens before COLA even gets applied. Think of it like resetting the foundation of your benefit to match reality, and then continuing to build on that foundation every year moving forward. The change was finalized in late regulatory guidance, which is why you didn't see a major press conference or headlines. But make no mistake, this is the most substantial update to Social Security benefit calculations we've seen since the automatic COLA system was established in 1975. So why now? What made this year different from the last 10 years of advocacy and proposals? 3 things converged at the same time. First, recent trustee reports showed that Social Security's financial outlook improved slightly compared to earlier projections. Not dramatically, but enough to give policymakers some breathing room. Revenue came in stronger than expected, and the timeline for trust fund depletion extended by a few months. Second, there was mounting evidence that the gap between official inflation numbers and actual retiree expenses was widening. Independent studies started showing that older Americans were experiencing cost increases 6 to 8% higher per year than what the government formula reflected. That means every year your purchasing power was quietly eroding even after COLA adjustments. Third, and this is critical, there was bipartisan pressure building in Congress. It wasn't just Democrats pushing for this. Republican lawmakers in districts with large retiree populations were hearing from constituents who couldn't afford rent, couldn't afford medication, and couldn't make ends meet despite technically receiving inflation adjustments. When you combine all 3 of those factors, improved finances, undeniable data, and political pressure from both sides, you create the conditions for change. And that's exactly what happened. Behind the scenes, actuaries ran new projections, policy staffers drafted implementation language, and senior advocates kept the pressure on until an agreement was reached to move forward with a recalibrated benefit structure. It didn't happen overnight. This was the result of years of groundwork. But the final decision came together remarkably fast once the pieces aligned, which is why so many people are just hearing about it now. Now let's talk about what this actually means for your monthly check. Based on the updated calculation methodology, analysts estimate the average adjustment falls between 7.2% and 8.4%, depending on your benefit category. For most recipients, the effective increase lands around 7.8%. Let me break that down by program. For Social Security retirement, the average retired worker currently receives about $1,907 per month. Under the recalibrated formula, that increases to about $2,055. That's an extra $148 every month, or roughly $1,776 per year. If you're receiving closer to the maximum benefit, currently around $4,873, your new amount would be closer to $5,250. That's nearly $4,500 more per year. For SSDI recipients, the average disability benefit is $1,537 per month. With the adjustment, that rises to approximately $1,657. That's $120 more each month, adding up to $1,440 per year. For SSI recipients, SSI works a little differently. The federal maximum benefit for an individual is currently $943. Under the new structure, that increases to $1,016. For couples, the maximum goes from $1,415 to approximately $1,525. Many SSI recipients receive less than the maximum due to income or living arrangements, but the percentage increase applies proportionally across the board. For survivor benefits, widows, widowers, and eligible children will see increases calculated the same way. If you're currently receiving $1,485 as a surviving spouse, your new amount would be around $1,600. Now, I want to be clear about something. These are estimates based on the formula change and current average benefits. Your exact increase depends on your specific benefit amount, your payment history, and your individual circumstances. But across the board, we're talking about meaningful increases that go far beyond what a typical COLA would deliver in a single year. Let's talk timing, because this is where the confusion is happening. The recalibration is already in effect from a policy standpoint. That means the Social Security Administration is actively processing updated benefit amounts right now. However, the rollout follows your regular payment schedule. If you receive Social Security retirement benefits, your payment date is based on your birth date. Born between the 1st and 10th, you're paid on the 2nd Wednesday. Born between the 11th and 20th, you're paid on the 3rd Wednesday. Born between the 21st and 31st, you're paid on the 4th Wednesday. You're paid on the 4th Wednesday. Your recalibrated amount will appear in your next scheduled payment. For most people, that means you'll see the increase within the next 2 to 4 weeks. If you receive SSI, SSI payments go out on the 1st of every month. Your next payment will include the adjusted amount. If you receive SSDI, SSDI uses the same birth date schedule as Social Security retirement benefits. Check your typical payment day. The new amount will show up in that cycle. One important note: the Social Security Administration is not sending individual notices in advance. You will see the change in your bank account or on your payment statement before you receive an official letter explaining it. That's normal. Those letters usually arrive a few weeks after the payment hits. Now, as with any major change to Social Security, there are 3 things you need to be aware of. First, scammers. Fraudsters are already sending text messages, emails, and making phone calls pretending to be from the Social Security Administration. They'll say you need to verify your information to receive the increase, or pay a processing fee, or fix a problem with your account. Let me be absolutely clear. The Social Security Administration will never call you out of the blue asking for your Social Security number, your bank account information, or a payment. The adjustment is automatic. You don't need to do anything. If someone contacts you claiming to be from SSA, hang up and call the official number directly, 1-800-772-1213. Second, tax implications. Because your benefit is increasing, you may cross income thresholds that affect how much of your Social Security becomes taxable. This mainly impacts people with other income sources, pensions, part-time work, or investment income. The thresholds are $25,000 for individuals, $32,000 for married couples filing jointly. If your combined income exceeds those levels, up to 85% of your Social Security benefits could become subject to federal income tax. You won't owe taxes immediately on the new payment, but you may need to adjust withholding or make estimated tax payments. If you're unsure, talk to a tax professional. Third, Medicare premiums. Medicare Part B premiums are usually deducted directly from Social Security. When benefits increase, premiums sometimes increase as well. There is a hold harmless provision that prevents most people from seeing their net payment decrease. Early projections show a modest Part B premium adjustment for 2026, but it should not erase the benefit of this recalibration. Still, it's worth keeping an eye on when the official Medicare numbers are released later this year. Here's why this change matters beyond just the immediate increase in your monthly check. This recalibration resets your baseline benefit. That means every future COLA is calculated on top of this new, higher amount. Over time, that compounding makes a massive difference. Let's say you're 68 right now and expect to collect benefits for another 20 years. A 7.8% recalibration doesn't just give you an extra $150 this month. It gives you an extra $150 every single month for 2 decades, plus every future COLA added on top. That's the difference between financial stress and financial stability, between rationing medication and taking what your doctor prescribed, between heating your home in winter and choosing between heat and food. This also sets a precedent. For the first time in decades, the government acknowledged the formula wasn't working for retirees and made a structural change. That opens the door for future improvements, especially if advocacy groups push for full adoption of CPIE or other retiree-focused indexes. If you're not collecting yet, but plan to retire soon, this affects you too. Your initial benefit will be calculated using the updated structure, meaning you'll start from a higher baseline than you would have under the old system. Look, I know Social Security can feel complicated. The formulas, the acronyms, the bureaucracy, it's a lot, but at the end of the day, this is about whether you can afford to live with dignity after a lifetime of work. This recalibration doesn't solve every problem. Social Security still faces long-term funding challenges. Many recipients still struggle even with this increase, but it is a step in the right direction. And a reminder that when people organize, advocate, and demand change, progress is possible. Here's what I want you to do right now. 1. Check your payment schedule so you know when to expect the adjustment. 2. Be on high alert for scams. Do not give out personal information to anyone claiming to be from Social Security. 3. If you found this breakdown helpful, share it with someone who needs to see it. Millions of people have no idea this is happening, and they deserve to understand what's coming. And 4. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I'll be covering every update, every change, and every development affecting Social Security, Medicare, and retirement benefits. You deserve accurate, clear information without the hype or fear-mongering. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.